Okay, so before we even get started, did you see what happened with that Kumamoto Quake story? A mall explosion on top of an earthquake is just brutal.
Oh, we're going there first. I'm Vikram, by the way. Welcome to Newspresso. It's Friday, July 31st, 2026.
And I'm Kavya. Yeah, we're definitely going there first. That one feels like the wildest and hardest story on the table.
So the quake was a magnitude 7.1, and then right after that, the Aeon Mall Kumamoto explosion turned the whole thing into this terrifying rescue scene.
And this goes back to how quickly disasters stack on top of each other. You're not just dealing with collapsed roads and damaged homes, you're dealing with smoke, mangled steel, missing people, and rescue teams working in scorching heat.
The heat part really gets me. Thousands without power and water, shelter stretched across 400 sites, and people still waiting for news.
What people don't remember is how much strain that puts on hospitals and transport too. They were also dealing with more than 100 aftershocks in the days after the quake.
And authorities were still trying to figure out whether there'd been a gas blast inside the mall after the evacuation. That's such a nightmare combination.
It is. Firefighters and police were searching for missing workers and shoppers while also trying to confirm the cause. That's not a normal rescue operation.
The line that really stayed with me was residents in Uki sleeping in shelter halls and centers, just hoping for a cooler night in some news.
That's the human side of it. The broader lesson is that response speed matters, but so does recovery planning for extreme heat and fragile infrastructure. No shortcuts.
Alright, shifting gears, and honestly it feels almost absurd to move from that to football, but FIFA's private stake plan has caused a huge fight.
It has. FIFA wants to create a $20 billion subsidiary, FIFA Forward Enterprise, and sell up to 20% to private investors.
And immediately you get UEFA calling an emergency meeting, the AFC saying they weren't consulted, and a lot of people basically asking, why is this being pushed like this?
The pattern here is actually familiar. Whenever football governance starts looking like finance, people worry the sport is being treated as an asset rather than a public game.
Supporters say it could bring in about $4.2 billion upfront and more funding over 4 years, with member associations getting windfalls and grants.
Yes, but the objection is not just about money. It's about transparency, governance, and whether private investors should be anywhere near the World Cup structure.
And the optics of some associations being offered upfront money before a September deadline, that's never going to sound neutral.
No, critics call that coercive, and former FIFA chief Sepp Blatter has also said the World Cup should not become an investment product.
So this isn't just a debate about cash, it's really about who football is for.
Exactly. Fans, players, leagues, all of them generate the value. The question is, who gets to control it?
Okay, from global governance to student anger at home, the next group of stories all ties into that NEET and protest wave. The image of tens of thousands of young people at Jantar Mantar really says it all.
And this goes back to the NEET UG paper leak and the cancellation of a major medical entrance exam. That is what set off the anger.
Then Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan resigning under pressure, that's not a small thing. A minister stepping down because the protest kept building?
It's significant. Journalists and experts described it as a rare display of public power. The protests used memes, social media, and on-the-ground demonstrations, and they cut across identity lines.
I keep thinking about how that changes the mood around student politics. It wasn't just one exam complaint. It became a push for fairness and accountability.
And what people don't remember is that the movement also raised a bigger question. Can sustained civic pressure actually force reforms beyond one resignation?
Right, because otherwise it risks becoming a moment instead of a change.
Exactly. Some coverage warned that if this turns into narrow identity politics, the larger demand for better governance gets diluted.
And there was also sympathy and solidarity from neighboring countries in South Asia, which is interesting, like people recognize the energy immediately.
The real test now is whether that energy translates into durable policy change. That's the part that matters.
Which connects pretty directly to the next story, because the protests didn't stay just political, they became personal for Abhijit Dipke's family.
This story is unsettling. Dipke says unknown assailants told his parents to tell him to join the BJP or face consequences.
And his parents say that forced them to leave their home in Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar and stay with relatives in the Konkan region for about 16 days.
That's the part that makes it more than an argument about protests. It becomes about whether ordinary families get caught in the crossfire.
The timeline matters too. The threat appeared soon after the CJP movement started online, before he even returned home from Delhi.
Yes, and the broader backdrop includes accusations about police force, the Home Ministry, and claims about foreign funding being used to discredit the movement.
But none of that really changes the core question, does it? If the family felt threatened enough to flee, that's serious, regardless of the politics.
It is, and the story also notes that reporters captured the parents' accounts in Marathi and English briefings, which is why the family timeline is so central here.
It also shows how fast a protest founder can go from movement leader to someone whose family is living in hiding.
And that's the human cost. Public life invites criticism, yes, but that is a very different thing from threats.
Which brings us to the argument over what kind of speech and public behavior these protests have triggered, because Kangana Ranaut's remarks lit another fire. Calling Gen Z protesters Generation Gutter is such a loaded thing to say.
It is. Ranaut also described some as ugly and corrupt, and that set off a wave across political and media circles.
Supporters said she was being blunt about vulgar speech and unruly conduct, but critics saw it as stigmatizing young women and basically lowering the tone of public life.
And this goes back to a pattern people pointed out during the farmers' protests, that she has used harsh language before, and it keeps coming back into the conversation.
Preeti Chaudhary's point really lands for me here. Criticizing government policy shouldn't mean insulting all young women.
Sonu Sood said something similar in a different register, that the label was shameful and that public figures have to choose their words carefully.
It also became a BJP internal issue, with opposition criticism and meme culture pulling up old clips. So the story isn't just about one phrase.
No, it's about how protest, gender, and public speech all collide in one very visible moment.
And while all that was going on, Delhi was also dealing with the legal cleanup from the protest itself.
Delhi police records show 13 FIRs tied to the July 20 Chalo Sunset protest by the Cockroach Janta Party.
And the government said it won't take further adverse action against ordinary protesters, but people with criminal antecedents are not protected. That's a pretty clear line.
It is. The Supreme Court had already protected peaceful demonstrators while allowing action against those with histories or who committed violence.
More than 2,800 individuals with criminal backgrounds were identified by Delhi police, which is why the government said it couldn't shield everyone.
The pattern here is actually consistent across states. Bihar and Assam also withdrew cases, while Delhi is trying to separate peaceful protest from criminal conduct.
So for the students who showed up without violence, there's some relief, but the caution is still there for anyone with a record.
And this matters beyond this one march. It shapes how the state handles future demonstrations and how it balances public order with civil rights.
Okay, and then Parliament took the whole student anger and somehow turned it into slang. The fact that a parliamentary debate included clock it, Dululu, FOMO, and MIA is kind of incredible.
It's unusual, certainly. The debate on the Public Examinations Amendment Bill was serious. It was about unfair exam practices and leaks, but the language got all the attention.
Bansuri Swaraj Singh Modi clocked it to credit the government, and Shrikant Shinde calling the opposition MIA and then Delulu. That's very internet to institution energy.
And Dipendra Singh Hooda throwing in Vesguna Hoya only adds to the sense that the chamber was speaking in the idiom of social media.
The thing that connects this to the protests is obvious though. The CJP movement created the pressure and Parliament responded in the language of the moment.
Yes, but some critics worry that this can erode parliamentary dignity. Others think it makes politics more relatable to younger voters.
So even the style of debate becomes part of the story.
Exactly. And as the bill moves towards passage, we'll see whether this is a one-off or the new normal.
Alright, moving on to sports. Though honestly this next one has the same governance drama as the FIFA story, just with different jerseys.
FIFA's proposal is the same basic fight we were just talking about. Create a new company to run the World Cup and other events, then sell up to 20% to private investors.
And the backlash is immediate. UEFA talks about emergency meetings and possible boycotts. CONCACAF says the process lacked due process and governance. And even the EU sports official is warning about competition law and conflicts of interest.
The supporters say it would raise billions for development and create a new funding stream for member associations. That is the pitch.
But critics hear investment asset and basically stop there. Football has a way of making people emotional about ownership.
And this goes back to control. FIFA says it would still handle scheduling, governance and regulations, but people don't trust that money and influence will stay neatly separated.
The investor side being led by Thrive Eternal and JP Morgan, with Joshua Kushner's vehicle expected to lead the group, just makes it sound even more like a finance summit than a football meeting.
That detail will matter to people watching carefully, because once private capital enters a structure like this, The questions don't go away.
So the next few weeks, meetings, letters, votes, all of it are basically going to decide whether this becomes a new model or gets stopped.
Correct. And the world is watching because the implications go well beyond FIFA.
Okay, last stretch. And from geopolitics and football to culture, this trailer launch was a whole event of its own. The Ramayana trailer dropping at Brahma Muhurat is such a deliberate choice. It immediately tells you the marketing is going for reverence as much as spectacle.
And the scale is huge. A 4-minute, 9-second trailer, a 2-part epic, and a reported $500 million budget. That's an ambitious production.
Ranbir Kapoor as Rama is being described as calm and disciplined, while Yash as Ravana seems to be the scene stealer with that heavy, regal energy.
And Sai Pallavi as Sita adds weight, and the cast list keeps going. Lara Datta, Rakulpreet Singh, Vivek Oberoi, Arun Govil.
People also noticed what's missing. Hanuman's absence got chatter online, especially with Sunny Deol linked to the role.
Yes, and there were discussions about look and dialogue delivery across languages, plus chatter about design changes after earlier feedback.
So the reaction is mixed. Awe at this scale, but also scrutiny over CGI and pacing.
That's normal for a film of this size. When you make an epic this visible, people don't just watch the trailer, they judge the whole promise.
And with Part 1 set for 2026, the expectation is already enormous.
It is. The film has to carry both the mythology and the spectacle. No small task.
Alright, that's us for today on Newspresso. Thanks for hanging out with us and stay tuned. We'll be back soon.
Yes, stay tuned for the next one.